Welcome to Conversations with Well Life Hub Incorporated. Today I am joined by my best family. It is Thabiso Tshabalala. And him and I, we've got some stories, and maybe they are not for this platform.
Definitely.
Some of them include diapers, so I'll leave it there. He is an owner of Chameleon Creative, and he will say a little bit more about himself, and also just in terms of why we're having this topic today. And I will keep it rolling after he has introduced himself. As you know, I'm very long-winded, so that's why I want him to just keep it there. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Thabiso Tshabalala, and as she so rightly put it, I am a business owner. I run a company called Chameleon Creatives. That came about because I see myself as a chameleon. I studied musical theater. I'm a singer, actor, dancer. I'm also a publicist. So there are many hats that I wear. So calling my company Chameleon Creatives felt like the right way to go, because then I'm not just putting myself in one box. I have different boxes that I can fit into.
Multifaceted.
And I'm also Mr. South Africa 2024 contestant, and we'll be talking about that a little later.
Sure. And I think with that also, you know, being a contestant of Mr. South Africa 2024, there's something that you're very passionate about, and that's also part of what brings us together here, about mental health, men. And for you, where did it all start?
So I think I can even take it further back than when my mental health journey started. There used to be an initiative called Take a Girl Child to Work. And at the time I was in primary school, and in hindsight, when I look at it now, I always used to ask, why is there no platform for boys? Why are we not being exposed to these different types of careers, to these companies, so that when we make decisions, we are well informed? I take myself as an example. I always say that I'm one of those children who still doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows up. Hence the chameleon, because they.
So would you call it who does not know what they want to grow up, or because society has boxed us so much that it looks like that?
Yes.
Because I don't think, I mean, even in what you're saying, in us coming together, in you being a contestant of Mr. South Africa 2024, which is so fitting, it even gives you a platform and a voice to advocate for mental health, especially amongst Black men. So yes, to some person who is conservative, who is traditional, it might look like you are all over the place, but I don't think, you know, it is a person who still does not know what they want. It's just that you have started to embrace who you are and how you want things to be and how you see things to be.
And you have encapsulated it very well, because yes, I'm not a person who doesn't know what they want to be, but there are so many things in life that I want to be, that I'm not going to box myself. So being a chameleon is who I am. And going back to the question,
where it all started for you.
So so I would always have this thought. So fast forward to 2016. 2016, I get diagnosed with depression and anxiety. I do my 21 days at Akeso, and life carries on. And then I start to think about my own mental health journey and the stigmas surrounding being a person with a mental illness, but especially being a Black person with a mental illness.
And especially being a PK.
Being a pastor's kid with mental illness.
Because you're supposed to be praying that away.
Yes.
Aren't you praying enough? Don't you have belief enough? all of that, and you might even find that parts of why you were there, it's part of being a PK, because of the pressures, because of the expectations, because of what happens in that environment, which again, it's also a topic for another day.
Yeah, and it's something we're not gonna really talk about now, because we've got the same experience. But yes, all those pressures and experiences create that kind of environment. And as I continued on my journey with mental health, I started seeing a trend of Black men that are going through mental health issues and illnesses. And I think when I started seeing the trend of Black men committing suicide, that's when I thought there's something wrong.
And I mean, and I think on your bio, on your profile, for those who might want to check it out, you even explain or depict the statistics, which the statistics are out there. We are the 10th ranking in the world in terms of, dying by suicide. And of those, it's about 13,000 per annum of individuals dying by suicide. And of those 13,000, it's 10,000, it's men. And that is why then you started looking at the trend a little bit closer, because I mean the disparity between 13,000 per annum of the population and 10,000 being men, it means this is very, very serious.
And unfortunately, because there isn't much in terms of statistics about population, so is it 5,000 Black people, 1,000 of white people. But I do see it as something that needs to be discussed as to what is happening with Black men in society. And to a large extent, I think it's because we feel disenfranchised. When in Black culture, when a woman is about to get married, bamolaya as makuti. Where us as men, we don't have that conversation. With a woman, you're told, okay, this is how you carry yourself as a wife.
Which we hate, by the way.
Which yes.
I'm kidding. Yes,
no,
sure.
I agree. It's not something that we should.
But you're talking about a conversation that happens. So meaning a spotlight on this person needs guidance, this person, and it's the same with taking a girl child to work versus taking a boy child to school, to work. Where for you, it felt like now a boy child is being left behind. Yes, it was for economical reasons where, women were not exposed to certain fields or certain environments, and for them to see themselves as, I can, do engineering, I can wear skokoro and boots and all of that. But in that process, a boy child got left behind a lot. And many other times in society, we see it in institutions, in schools, where then, in women empowerment, in business, there's no men empowerment in business.
And one of the things that I feel is that in trying to get equality, we are then shifting to an unequal society, because in trying to raise the platform for women, we're not then saying, let's go on this journey together. We're saying, women, here's a platform for you. Men, you're on your own. You will see to finish on your own. And I think that is where we are finding ourselves with all these issues, because we are not being given a platform to speak about the issues. There are certain expectations on men.
Which is so unfair.
You are the provider of the house. And now with society, there's things like men are trash. instead of building men.
Or even that, the black man, you are on your own.
Yes, black man, you are on your own.
Sure.
Those are things that bring the man down, even if it's not something that we see now. But over a long term, the confidence of the man starts to diminish, and that is what I'm trying to champion with this.
And you shared, and thank you for being vulnerable as well to this space. And I think I see vulnerability as a strength, not as a weakness. And in you being strong, you can strengthen other men who are listening and identifying with what you're saying.
Yeah.
In you being a 16-year-old, being admitted at Akeso, getting treatment, and then journeying on. And how has your journey been like, especially as far as medication is concerned, where people, I often hear my clients saying, no, I'm not going to take medication because I'm afraid I'm going to be addicted to the medication. And I say, but when you've got a sprain, you don't think twice, and you don't even question the physician when they say, go take this to help you manage the pain. And basically, the medication that you get for treating mental illness is to manage the illness, just like somebody who's on chronic medication for diabetes, for cholesterol, for high blood pressure. And what has been your experience?
I think the one thing that I've noticed is that we don't treat mental health and mental illnesses the way we would treat, let's say, cancer. A person doesn't choose to have a mental illness. And in terms of my journey, I started off on medication, and to this day, I cannot say I have had a negative experience in terms of my emotions and my feelings. If anything, when something wasn't working, I would then go to my psychiatrist and we could change that. Review the dosages. Review the dosages.
Exactly, yes.
And medication increases, and I've been on antidepressant, anti-anxiety, sleeping tablets, and for the last 8 years now, that's been my life, and I don't see anything wrong with it. I would much rather cope on medication than struggle without medication.
That's a very powerful statement, and I'm hoping that the viewers are hearing that. As you're saying, you rather cope on medication. So if, for example, we were to say, so oftentimes I will hear clients saying, I want to wean myself off the medication. I say, okay, what coping mechanism do we have in place for you to enable you to do that? So if it's sleep that you're struggling with, have we sorted out the sleep hygiene? Have we sorted out the, rituals around sleep that you are guaranteed a good sleep? Because that's where I start. I start with sleep. We can have 100 of things in the agenda, but if sleep is not in place, because I know the effects and the impact of not having sleep. So I would rather have you being on a sleeping tablet if you are not yet at a place where sleep is not sorted out than to have erratic sleep nights, and then we know what are the ramifications of that. So I think that is a very powerful statement to say, I would rather have the medication coping other than without medication and not functioning. And if there is an alternative where I can cope without the medication, yes, bring it on. But as far as for now, and as far as what I know works for me, and what I know is effective for my everyday functioning, and here you are functioning. It's not like, because people are afraid, oh, you put me on medication, I'm gonna be a zombie. Again, the addiction thing, and I don't know where does it come from, but I think it comes from lack of information and education.
Absolutely. And like I'm saying, it's been 8 years. A person would expect that after 8 years, there have been improvements, there have been developments. But like I'm saying, for as long as the medication is helping me be a fully functional human being within society, I will forever advocate for that.
Just like anyone who's on chronic medication.
Yes.
Exactly.
So if you're on medication, for diabetes, hypertension, those types of things.
Yes.
Same thing with mental health
Absolutely.
and mental illnesses.
Absolutely. You recently went through a very heart-wrenching experience, and even I, after learning that, I did not know how to reach out to you because it really left me empty as somebody who's an observer in your life. And I cannot imagine how that has been for you and on a day-to-day, and talk to us through that experience.
Okay, so in 2022, my partner and I found out that we were expecting a child. And a couple of weeks later, we went through a spontaneous abortion, which is a miscarriage. And that was a very tough one because it happened while I was away on work. So I couldn't fully tap into the feelings that were happening at the time. And I think for a year, because work was so hectic, I just kept going and going and going, and not necessarily dealing
with the loss.
And finding my own space within the loss. Because oftentimes the focus is centered on the woman because it has happened in her body. So it has happened to her, but it brings me back to what I'm championing. What about the man?
Exactly. Because you are the father.
I am the father.
You are emotionally invested.
I am fully and 100%
You were
invested.
Expectant.
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
Similarly.
Yes. We were two people that came in and we created life together. So it cannot be that when something like this happens, we only focus on the one and not the other. And interestingly enough, May is when this whole thing happened. We found out that we were expecting and things like that. And I found myself in a space where I couldn't function that week. And I'm talking about 2 weeks ago. Because for the first time, I had to sit within my grief and understand where I am. And even in trying to understand, having more questions than I do answers, but also giving myself the grace to go through everything that I was going through. I was angry, but I know that anger is a sign of being hurt. And, you know, there was a day, or there were days where I just cried, triggered by the smallest of things, and I just cried. And it's the first time that I have been able to sit with my grief and say, okay, this is where you are. This is what has happened to you. Now let's take this journey. And we don't know what the journey is going to look like, but we're going to go on the journey of grief. And at some point, it won't be as painful as it is. But for me, I can say it's still very
as raw.
painful.
Yeah,
it's still as raw. You know, waking up, I remember that my child is not here. Walking in the street, seeing a child is a trigger on its own. Seeing a child with their father, that is a trigger on its own. And walking through society and acknowledging that these are triggers has also helped me sort of understand, but also to say, you know what, this is a reality, this is a fact of life, it has happened. Acknowledge it, but also don't allow that to hurt you.
And I can even sit and say, you can allow it to hurt you. It's okay to let it hurt you. And I heard you saying the little triggers, and I don't see them as little triggers. They are big triggers because they speak to the reality of your life. You know, be it a child laughing, crying, the milestones, I think more so than anything else. I think that can be a very tough and challenging journey, even going ahead. But as you said, that's also something that helps you to champion this journey as well, in saying, in my own understanding of what has happened with me and my life story, instead of closing the man out and saying it happened to a woman, we need to empathize with the woman because she's the one that lost, but to say, can we come to the realization that these are two people that were invested? It was not only the one party that was invested, and maybe even the community around that particular person that was invested. Just because it happened from a bodily or physical point of view, it does not mean that our emotions are detached. And I like the fact that you have allowed yourself or given yourself permission and not waited for society to give you the permission, because society can never legitimize your grief. And your grief is very legitimate. And I'm hoping, as other men are listening, or even people in general, can be able to recognize that that is the journey.
And I also see it not just in relationships where there's been a miscarriage. I see when a child has died, the focus is on the mother. We forget that a father has lost their child. Yes, the man is trying to be strong for the wife in that moment, but they too need support. They need someone to listen. And if it's someone to just sit there with them, we need that as well as men. It's not women one side, men one side. We actually need to come together and say, this is a journey that we're going on together, and this is what we're going to do.
There's a man or even a woman that is listening and saying, Thabiso, but where do I start? Because I am expected to be so strong. I'm expected to be the protector, the provider, all of the stuff, but I feel disenfranchised. And that particular man might not be a man who is not out of job or out of work. It's not a man who is seen as a weakest link in the society. Could be a CEO. Could be a group executive, could be a VP, could be whatever. But in themselves, they feel that where they are, in reaching out, in talking, they are disenfranchised because their grief is they feel that it's not legitimized, or their loss, or their doubt in themselves as well. Or even questioning their place in the world. Where do they start?
That is a very tough question, and I'm glad that you asked that question. And I think I was fortunate enough that when all of this happened, I had been on my mental health journey. So I was able to seek help through therapy.
So you were already aware.
Yes, so
you
I
had
was
the awareness,
yes,
exactly,
yes.
and you were conscious of what is happening versus somebody who might not even have an idea, bottle things up, even though in ungu it says me. I mean, it does cry at the end of the day.
And being on this journey, I was then able to understand, okay, this is how you deal with certain types of situations. And to summarize it, seek help. There is nothing wrong with seeking help or coming to a platform like this and saying, this is how I'm feeling as a man. What tools can you as a healthcare provider give me so that I understand how to do this? So there's the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, and they do phenomenal work, support groups, and that if a man doesn't know how to start, that is a very good place to start.
Absolutely.
They can also reach out to Wildlife Hub, because that is also a space that is available. And in the same way that you've allowed me into the space, men are welcome into the space as well. And it's not taboo.
Not at all. Not at all. How do we then, on you being a contestant for Mr. South Africa, tell the viewers, the listeners, how do we vote for you? Because we definitely want to see you taking the reign of being Mr. South Africa. I think you deserve it. And I'm biased in saying that.
Yes, and you have to say it.
You know, I am biased and I'm mobilizing for votes, basically.
Yeah.
And we're going to be in the campaign with you all the way. So you're going to see us and we're going to be tagging you everywhere we can. So how do we vote for you?
Okay. So follow me on Instagram. It is at ThabsT, which is ThabzTEE. The link is on my bio. You click there, you select the number of votes that you're casting, you enter your details, and it's as easy as that. You can vote as many times as you like. And yes, that is how we get me to the finals.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It was really a pleasure to have you today. And thank you for being so generous with your time to just come and spend time and speak on this very important topic of mental health and men. I mean, mental health in general, we need to be advocating for it, and for you to be closing the month of mental health awareness. By the way, if you are not aware, May month is Mental Health Awareness Month. The 10th of October, it's a mental health day. So don't mix the two. 10th of October, you will see us October still advocating, but we are anyway advocates of mental health because of the space and what we want to, or how we want to reach out to the public. So thank you so much, Thabiso, for being with me, and all the best.
Thank you very much for opening up the space for me and for having me at Wildlife Hub Inc.
Sure. All right.